You hear him with that snare. I guess I kind of stumbled on this idea of order, chaos, balance. Jordan Peterson, he talks about it a lot in his in his lectures and in his books as well. And it's this idea that to lead a fulfilling life, you want to find the center of order and chaos and find the balance between the two. I guess what does that mean? Well, order is stability, and it's consistency, and doing the same thing kind of every day and everything that you know. Chaos is everything that you don't know, and it's the anxiety that you have on a daily basis and the other emotions that are kind of associated with that, depression and anger and hatred and all of that. But what he basically says is, to lead a fulfilling life, you need to be exploring chaos, but having one foot in order, and understanding, having a good footing, but exploring the unknown is the most exciting place to be. The thing is with order, which is the main idea behind this EP, is order, whilst it sounds good on the surface, you have everything in your life and strict and rigid, and you know what's going to happen every day, what's happening tomorrow, what will happen in a few weeks, months, years. It's stagnant and rigid and boring. There's nothing that changes, and there's nothing exciting about it. It's the same kind of thing day in. And I even know from my own situation, when I've been in, when everything in my life felt like it was going incredible, I still found myself in states of depression and anxiety, even when on the surface it seemed like everything was going swimmingly. Order, as an EP, is kind of my musical interpretation of what we imagine our lives to be like, living in complete order. We think it's going to be this incredible experience, nothing can go wrong, and the world is a blissful place to live in. But in reality, that's not life. There's always going to be turmoil, and to lead a fulfilling life, at least in my opinion, you need both. You need one to appreciate the other, and vice versa. Yeah, there are some specific parts in the EP which I think represent those core ideas. I mean, with every track I try to approach it and interlink it within that kind of idea and philosophy. Ukiyo, for example, actually means, and I'm probably butchering how to saying the name of that word, but it means floating world. And what I imagined with that track is this life of order that we're all trying to work towards. It's almost like a mirage in the distance. It's a floating world that you can't quite catch. It's something perfect that's in an imperfect world. I guess I was going through a period of just trying to experiment a bit more. I've been writing singles for so long, and I wanted to push myself to be creative and try something new, try something different. And I think every track on the EP has its own story and its own sound, but it still fits within the ecosystem of the EP. When you're creative, or you're being creative, you get a sense of flow and rhythm, and you get stuck in that groove, but it's such a fulfilling place to be. And I think for this EP, I spent a lot of my time in that groove. I think because it's electronic music, there's no words in it, so it is up for interpretation from the listener. My approach to making it might not necessarily come through to whoever's listening to it. In that case, they're just going to be listening to the music. But I'd like to think that people would it would help people's lives in their own way. Even for myself, like for my favourite artists, the tracks that have impacted my life the most, I'm sure when they were writing it, they probably had a completely different idea of how they felt about it. But it's always, I think it's always unique to the listener. I think at the moment why it resonated with me so well is just because I'm always working on music, and I guess when I first heard it, it was really applicable to my music making. Like, there's a lot of anxiety and stress about creating art. I could be better. This could sound better. I should be like this artist. That's like, I kind of see that as like the chaos side of it. You're just like battering yourself, thinking and saying that you could be better. You could just be an overall better artist. But then there's also that order side of it, where you kind of have everything in check, and you're going well, and things are going swimmingly. You feel like a great producer, you feel like a great artist and creative, and you feel like what you're creating could have a really positive impact on someone's life. But I guess what I realised is you can't have one or the other. There's always that interchange. I think to be a successful artist, you do need to doubt yourself at times. You do need to be hard on yourself. Not to the extreme, but to the point where it pushes you to make better art. And that's when I found myself making my best work, is when I'm, like I said before, I'm exploring new ideas, new sounds, new experimentations, but I have one foot in order, what I know already. So oh lol, I didn't have the plug turned on. I was like, where's the sound? I'm always listening to just loads of music. I was a music fan before I made music. So, I've been listening to loads of stuff over the past 6 months that I've been working on this EP, and I created a playlist of kind of all the tracks that I was like, oh, that could work for one of the EPs. But I've got so much random stuff in here, and it's not about like the sound or what they're saying or anything like that. I think it's just like the feeling it gave me, and I wanted to capture that and try and replicate that sort of feeling in the EP. But there's loads of stuff in here, things that are more similar down my lane, and like similar to the music that I make. Caribou, Can't Do Without You, and then Fleet Foxes, The Cascades, woo! And then I've got stuff like Tool right into, because Tool's actually
my favourite band growing up, and then they're a progressive metal band. That was how I really got into music, and they've always just kind of like been there throughout the years. I always end up going back to Tool, and maybe that's why my tunes have like a progressive nature to them, because like Tool, they don't have like specific verse chorus sections. They kind of change throughout the track, and it's never the same thing, and I quite like that, because it's almost like a journey through the song. Yeah. And then there's a lot of stuff in there for the next EP, but we ain't got that far yet. So for this EP, and I guess my music going forward, I wanted to incorporate a lot more of my bass playing, because growing up I was a bass player. That's how I got into music, and I was a bass player first before I was, doing all the electronic stuff, and I kind of lost that over the years. So I've been trying to bring it back, and for this EP, it's littered throughout the project, loads of bass playing, and like, for instance, just experimenting with some like chords, bass chords, and normal notes as well, because I quite like the combination of the two. Having them both in there kind of fills up the frequency spectrum in a nice way. So that bass line kind of just went like. And then when I was writing it, I was like, how can I progress from this riff, I guess, synth bass line? And I thought I could just break up what I've already made into just broken chords, I guess. So I ended up with the next section, which was harder to play, but it worked out well. I guess with this EP as well, I wanted to just take my bass playing and see how far I could push it. I mean, this is because you can do a lot with a simple source sound and all of the technology that we kind of have available today. I mean, the other day I was working on this, which is literally just some bass chords. It's pretty simple, but if you reverse it and then, add some effects, basically I kind of just employed a feedback and a thermal, which is basically saturation, distortion, and you end up with something that's like completely different and changes the vibe completely. Oh, that was a bit loud. Idea of taking something and changing it into something completely new. And there's no like witchcraft or magic at play, it's just experimentation and stumbling across things that you might not have expected. I live in a world of happy accidents.
So I've quite a diverse style. My roots are kind of in electronica, IDM, those kind of genres. But I kind of try and branch out into different styles as well and interpret it in my own way to make it sound more unique to me. Like with this EP, there's a lot of more like hard rock, metal type tunes going on. And yeah, I'm just trying to make stuff that I enjoy and that I think sounds like me. So with the first EP, Order was very happy, almost kind of chill at times, and it was like with that EP I was trying to show off this idea of like extreme happiness, if that's a way to put it. With Chaos, it's basically like the polar opposite of that. It's the darkest thing that I could kind of muster. Again, still kind of trying to make it sound like me though. Yeah, that's basically what this EP is. They're like two polar opposites, like a yin and yang. My favourite thing about the EP is like if you listen, at least from my perspective as well, when I put it all together, there's a clear like downward spiral. Like the first track, Art of War, is very much like, from my perspective, I was seeing it as someone who's having some mental health challenges, kind of going to and from, like being completely fine, and then, but there's something in the background that's kind of affecting them and is nagging at them. And then as the EP progresses, it just slowly gets more and more darker, as if like those thoughts and feelings that me or someone's, you know, having are just getting progressively kind of worse and worse and worse until Chaos, when it's literally that, it's just chaos. They've kind of lost all grounding or any foot to stand on. They're kind of just lost in this, in their mental state. With the Art of War, yeah, it's very much like what I was just saying. It's those first few thoughts or feelings that you have where it's like, something's not quite right here, but I think I'm all right. So it kind of switches between quite melancholic sections and then pretty dark sections as well. And then I Don't Want to Hurt, with that track, I was just imagining like sleepless nights. I don't want to hurt, I just want to lay here, where I'm just in bed and I can't stop thinking about this stuff that's slowly getting worse and worse, and it just keeps you up at night. Downward and Spiral, it's basically those kind of feelings, but then it is very much, yeah, just falling further down that spiral, not really understanding what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and not knowing how to deal with it, basically. Second last track, Fractured, is just, it's almost like you've come to terms with how you're feeling. For me, when that happened, it was like falling into pretty severe depression. And that was that moment I was trying to encapsulate. Just, you're at your lowest low. And then Chaos, I've spoken about, it's like, after that, you know, you're done. It's, there's no coming back. You're kind of just lost. Yeah, I think it should be talked about more, because like, you know, like with Instagram these days,
everyone's posting pictures of their perfect lives when that's really just not the case. And I think it's important to discuss things and put art out into the world that brings these topics up, because it gives people a platform to discuss it and heal themselves. Like there's no, it doesn't help to just bottle it all up. The best thing to do is just talk with people. And I think like music, like especially, is good at that. Like giving people a platform to validate like how they're feeling, like it's not just you, kind of thing. Because I kind of established a sound which is very much more upbeat and chill before this. Like everything I've released before this has been at the very like most kind of driving, but nothing like for the last track on this EP, where it's almost like industrial. And putting together this EP with those kind of sounds and still trying to make it sound like me, that was like the toughest thing. And there must have been like at least 4 or 5 tunes that I just scrapped, because I was like, this isn't good enough. It either doesn't sound like me, or I'm just not feeling it, and it's not portraying what I want to say. Well, I mean, it's electronic music, so there's no words, so it could be interpreted anyway, but how I felt about it. So yeah, that was easily the most difficult part, yeah. I've kind of got like a pretty standard workflow now that I've kind of built up over the years. I normally just start with an idea, like it could be like a bass riff, drum loop, or some chords. And then I just build on that until I have like a solid idea. And then I expand on that idea by using material from that original source idea. And I can't just sit on one like beat. Like I have to, like when you hear my tracks, they're kind of morphing in between different sections, and I think I quite like that about my music. And yeah, that's pretty much how I make it. I'm always in Ableton. I've been for years now. Max for Live, and a lot of I actually got like a couple modular bits recently, so I'm just incorporating all of that and my bass playing as well to put the tracks together. Yeah. I think my earliest memories of music, or when music had like a big impact on me, so I always come back to them as Tool. They're like a progressive metal band, but when I first heard them when I was younger, it was kind of like a little light bulb went off. And I think that's when I truly fell in love with the craft, the music making craft. But after that, obviously loads of other artists came in, 9 Inch Nails, Radiohead. Then I moved on to electronica stuff, Lapalux, Flying Lotus, Echo, those kind of guys. And these days I listen to anything and everything really. Been listening to a lot of Death Grips recently, which has helped with the EP because they're super savage. But yeah, that's pretty much it for influences. I'd say the core, I think Tool is the main influence, definitely. I quite like Marco Pierre White. He comes out with some quite. He's an artist, but with food. And the way he works with food, the way he describes it, I can kind of relate to in a music making sense. It translates well. Yeah, probably him.
So, balance.
It's taken me a little while to come out here and film this. I think the main reason is that part of me doesn't want this project to end. It's been such a big part of my life now for however long it's been, 3 or 4 years, that, I can't quite believe that it's almost over. I almost kind of want to just keep the RCP for myself as my own little baby. But I promised myself that I'd get it out there. So that's what I'm going to do. To kind of give some backstory into Balance, I have to go a little bit into what's been going on in my life for the past few years. Well, last year, since the release of Chaos, really. I've been a graphic designer for the past 5 years or so. Things were going really good for me, and it's interesting because after Chaos came out, that all kind of went to shit, basically. With all the AI stuff that came out last year, DALL-E, Midjourney, all that, I lost a lot of clients. And I know this isn't related to Balance right now, but I'm getting to that. Yeah, and then this all happened not long after Chaos was released, which was quite funny, actually, because it kind of just plummeted my world into chaos shortly thereafter. So the past year or so, I've been trying to build myself back up. Whilst I've been doing that, I'd been working on Balance. And it's just funny that whilst I've been working on these EPs, or the Chaos Balance over the past few years, it's funny how there's been so many times where the EPs have been parallel to things that have been going on in my life. Maybe it's just because I had the EPs in mind, but yeah, to be honest, I'm still very much living through a period of chaos right now. I'm still recovering from everything from last year, but I'm in a better place and I'm working on it. So last year, after I, basically figured out I need to find a new career path, I took a little bit of time off. I've been working hard for quite a few years now. I hadn't really had any time off, and I got back into the gym. Working on Balance once I got back into the gym, it was interesting because it was almost like I was writing tunes to motivate myself. Not that I love going to the gym, but to go that extra mile, to push myself further. And that's kind of where the origins of this EP was. It was basically me trying to push myself and motivate myself to get up and not resign myself to being depressed and miserable all the time because of work. As far as the inspiration behind it, I took a lot from, it's kind of embarrassing to admit now, but a lot of Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Lost in the World, and Power, I think, the main tracks, really. Yeah, I say embarrassing to admit that now because, everyone knows what he's been up to, and it's not really a good look, is it? But yeah, that's where it came from. I wanted those big anthemic tunes that pump you up, but still had some moments of tenderness that parallel to Order. So there's a mix of both, Chaos and Order. That was, that was the intent, to make a final EP that kind of had a bit of sounds from both of those first two EPs. And like I said, the story of the 3 EPs is to navigate through order and chaos and find balance in your life. And I'm very much going through that navigation right now, trying to figure out what my place is in the world and how I can contribute and find some sort of meaning other than just working myself to death. And it's funny because
I looked back at the old videos of me doing the behind the scenes for the old EPs, Order and Chaos. And I'm in my late 20s now, almost 30. And it's just interesting to look back and see myself then, and would I have been happy with myself knowing where I am now back then? Would I have been pleased with what I've done and the music I've made? And now that I've finished this saga of releases, this kind of trilogy of EPs, you know, the next thing that comes to mind is like, what's next? Well, they're not over yet. I'm releasing the 3 EPs as a full album, with remixes from a few of my fellow producer friends, which is coming out later this year. So that's next for the immediate future, but as far as after that, I don't know. I'm always going to be making music. You just have to stay tuned and find out. And one thing I want to say about myself through this whole the trilogy of EPs is that I'm proud of myself for seeing it through and giving each EP everything I could give it. I can take that with me for the rest of my life, knowing that I gave these EPs everything I could give.